Hey you, and welcome to my channel. My name is Tina and my aim is to improve your drawings just like others have done for me when I just started out. Before I start with a small intro, for those of you who want to skip straight to the bird, I divided this video into different parts so you can easily skip ahead. In today's video I'm drawing or painting a bird. While I give you this small intro, I'm playing the part where I did the background. I didn't put a lot of time in this, as it is an out of focus background and it goes really well with the realistic subject. I also didn't give you any explanation, so if this is something you like, make sure to put it in the comments below. I've already uploaded a video where I explain in much more detail how to draw feathers. If that is something you are interested in, make sure to check out the link that appears on your screen or check out the link in the description after you've done watching this one. In this video, you'll see me applying some of that technique. For those of you who happen to be subscribed to my newsletter, in my last newsletter the picture I'm working from was included with the pictures I sent to you. If you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you do now so you don't miss out on future videos. I also think color swatching is very important when it comes to creating realistic artworks, so I'm first showing you the color swatch I did for this bird. As you can see, there are a lot of colors in there and this process helps me choose the right colors for this project. Starting on the bird right now, I decided to block in my entire underlayer for the bird and then work with some glassine paper underneath my hand. And for this project I decided to use pastels, but you can use any form of pastel you like. For the beak I was looking for the perfect orangey red for the top part and a little bit more red for the bottom part. You'll sometimes see me mix the colors on the right side, but for the purpose of this video I decided to leave that out. Too much information can sometimes be overwhelming. If you're interested in a video on mixing pan pastel, make sure to let me know. On the right side, an interesting feature of pan pastel is that I'm able to manipulate my colors so that I have more yellow on the bottom part of my soft tool, a nice mix in the middle and a more orange tone at the top. Then when I apply the tool on my paper, you get this nice effect where the colors are fluctuating. Since I'm still in the yellow tone, I add the part in the middle before I add the orange on the left. I don't mind the yellow mixing in with the orange, but I don't want this to happen the other way around. Next I'm just playing a little bit with pastel, switching between some brighter tones, some darker or even some more red tones. For the green I'm going to do the exact same thing, just playing around a little bit with the range of tones within that color. I followed my reference picture for this, but the choice is yours. You'll also notice one big difference between the green and the orange part. Obviously every bird is made out of feathers, but some of those are long beautiful feathers we loved picking up as a kid, while others are much smaller. This is the difference between the orange and the green feathers. And while the chest is still covered with feathers for our eyes, this looks quite different than those big feathers I mentioned before. So to achieve a realistic look, we want to mimic what we see. This is why for the orange part I've added a bit more pastel on there in comparison to the green part. This is because in the green area I still want to be able to see my line work when I put in the feathers later on. The blue for the head is yet another type. It's a little bit spiky. So here I'm putting a base layer of blue, but I'm going to use a darker color to add some markings where I still see some of my line art. This darker blue is also what I'm using for the lower part of the bird. Same like I did with the orange above, I'm going to put a slightly thicker layer. Now on my picture you can see a slight variation from light to dark that goes from left to right, but I didn't feel the need to include it here. As you get more experience, you will be able to judge everything much more accurately. Now all that's left to do is to add the gray around the eyes and for the claws or paws, I don't know which one a bird has. But anyway, as always, you can achieve a similar result if you're just using soft pastel or pastel pencils. If you're still following along, I hope that means you're enjoying this video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel to show your support. I'm starting on the bird now. First up is the beak, and for this I'm using a few different tones of red and orange. I'm using ivory at the top to get that shiny highlight in. By tapping this with your finger you blend the colors smoothly into each other. Moving upwards, make sure to start with that dark dot. This is what stands out there. Then I can use a shade lighter to go around it and give it the illusion of depth and take it from there. Since my paper size is quite small, there isn't much detail in the eye, so this is quite easy. Now here I'm starting on what I earlier called spiky. In a way this resembles a lot when you would do fur. Here you don't see feathers like in the green area, but more clumps grouped together. This is why I called it spiky earlier. And don't be intimidated by all the blues you see me holding in my hand. Although it's true that you will have more depth to your pieces if you use more colors, there are two ways to handle this if you haven't got as many colors. The first one and the most easiest way is to simply stick to the blues you do have. Even if you haven't got as many, you will still be able to achieve a realistic look. The second and more difficult way is by adding some white or black to the blues you have and blend your blue on the paper to get a slightly different color. Then I basically tackle this the way I would draw fur. I started with my darkest values and kept going lighter. The bottom part is a shade darker, so I added some darker blue there first. The yellow part is just a repetition but with yellow values. To get the transition between the blue and the yellow smoothly, I added a little bit of very bright green from the blue to the yellow, but added the strokes on the yellow part. And then I did the same on the blue side with the dark blue. This slightly overlaps into the green strokes I just put there. Moving over to the chest area, I filled in the top part with small strokes of red, and then I went over this with a darker value to put in the indications where the feathers end. Then I'm using a lighter orange immediately underneath to show the highlights. For this I'm also using short strokes. At the top I just used the dark blue again for the transition, and to get some more shade in I'm also using a darker warm color. You can apply this for the entire red area. Just look at your reference picture for an indication as to what colors you should use. By this I mean the sections where it's lighter or darker. You can see on the picture of the bird that the colors vary between red to orange and a lot of shades in between. I just want to apologize for the bad quality here. I don't know what happened to my original footage, so I had to switch to my side view, but unfortunately it isn't as clear as I had thought or hoped. So I decided to leave out the blue part because the quality wasn't as good as I wanted. But just remember that you can tackle this the same way like the orange part. Finally, I'm starting on the green. The top part here is still much more like the spiky blue and yellow above it. And it's only as you progress more towards the bottom, the big feathers start to take shape. This is the part where you have the advantage that you can still see a little bit of your line art through. You can use this as your guide to put in the darker markings where the feathers end. Don't just put down straight lines, but form your line by using little strokes next to each other. I used black here to darken this up. And then it's time to start filling up the feathers. Don't go and color this in, but use short strokes to fill it up and give it some more texture. I used the same light green for this whole part here. I just used my finger at the end to push the pastel into the paper and blend it. On top of the right side I used a lighter green where the highlights fall, as well as a few small feathers at the top. You want to make it even more bright, so I actually went over this with a light grey, but just make sure not to put on too much so you can mute it back down. And then it's pretty much playing with your values a little bit to get some depth and definition into your drawing. This is when I refer you to the feather study I did earlier, because I was working on a piece where I could show everything in much more detail. I hope you found this useful. Of course, this isn't in real time, but hopefully you managed to learn a thing or two. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my channel. You should be able to see the button on your left side right about now. And I hope to see you for the next one, and in the meantime, have a great week.